Well, hello there and welcome to the kitchen of the dollhouse. So what are we cooking up today? Well, my friends, another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Joost Elfers for January 17th, the day of the heavyweight. That's right. And here at the top of the page is a visual representation of the day of the heavyweight, if you like. Well, we have us an image. What could it be? Boom. It looks to me like a wadded up towel. I don't know, potentially the sort that they throw in during the boxing matches there. Hey, who's to say? But it would speak to the title now, wouldn't it? That having been said, not altogether all too important, the visual representational image. Just like you to know what I'm seeing in front of me here. That having been said, what is important around these here parts is it's a January 17th, and therefore it must be somebody's birthday. So if it's your birthday, I just want to say, happy birthday. That's right. And if the video finds you late, I don't know, days, weeks, months, whatever the case may be, well, then I hope you had a happy birthday. That's what's important around here. But for everybody else joining us randomly or more ideally to celebrate the birthday, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I get started with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, and that's roll some dice. This is the DykASSt birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake, but I do so more importantly, that's right, for synchronicity's sake. That's a lot of important things going on around these here parts. I rolled us a 3 and a 1 for a 4. Now, what is synchronicity, you're probably wondering? Well, my friends, a lot of times we get out into the world and we're very narrow or laser focused. Yeah, we got the blinders on to the things that are going on around us. That's not to say we don't necessarily see things, but we just don't necessarily lend them much credence, right? We're not really paying attention to them. And so this is an exercise to get those blinders off, because I hear it told that the universe will put things in our path to help us realize our goals or manifest our aspirations. But if we got the blinders on, hey, we might not pick up on those things. So like I said, this is an exercise to get those blinders off and see what we see. Let the universe speak to us in that way. But how do we pick up on things? Well, let's agree on a sign that we can't help but notice. At least hopefully. That's right, your daily numbers. 3 and a 1 for a 4. Now, you don't have to go with the numbers I rolled for you. The intention is there. But you know what? Raid your own Yahtzee set. Get out there. You're going to want to take your own set of dice so you can ascribe directional values to number sets and time limits with which to go in those directions. That having been said, pick out a place that maybe you've never been or one that's dear to your heart. Say the town square, which I often like to use because it's easy. And get on out there for your birthday there, or, to make up for it being late. And roll yourself a time value, a directional value, and set off. But like I said, take the blinders off. Let things kind of soak up into you like a sponge. Maybe the day will start to take on a little bit of a theme. You might not just start to see your numbers pop up everywhere, but who's to say? Well, let's use the visual representational image. Maybe you start seeing towels everywhere. I don't know. I know a lot of times if somebody mentions something random, you start seeing them everywhere. But hey, maybe that is just what we're going after here. It's the universe telling you you're in the right place. Some call it coincidence, some call it synchronicity. Let's try to stack them up, all right? So let's say you get to the end of your first time value. You're not really seeing anything. Well, stop, compose yourself, look around, see what you see. Maybe you just so happen to see that you're on 4th Avenue or 13th Avenue, 31st, whatever the case may be. I know the stats go up a little bit the more numbers we incorporate, but you know what? I would say that's an example of the universe being there with you on your path, telling you you're in the right place. So roll yourself another direction of value, another time limit. And maybe you just so happen to find yourself in front of a building with, a 31 in the address. Hey, you know what? I would say, once again, that's right. Universe telling you you're in the right place. Maybe go into that building. What do you find? Hey, you know what? Maybe it just so happens to be a boxing gym. Oh, I would say the synchronicities are lining up. Maybe the old timer that runs the joint comes up to you. Hey, what do you need? You want to throw down on some heavy bags there with the gloves? No, sir, I'm just here for synchronicity. Be open, forthright with what you're doing. Show him your dice. Maybe he finds you rolling dice. He's telling you, hey, you can't be shooting craps in here. No, sir, I'm just rolling myself another time value, another directional value. And the old timer would be like, what are you even talking about? Maybe show him this video. And the old timer would be like, well, that's just crazy. And yeah, the old timers think just about everything folks do these days is crazy. And you say, yeah, I understand. And he goes, no, not the fact that you're rolling dice in here, though. I don't particularly condone such actions. But what's crazy is it's my birthday, too. There you go. I'm sure you're like, yeah, right. But you know what? Things turn out that way more often than not. You'd be surprised. But who's to say? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does, though, with this example. And maybe old timer, maybe nobody's in the gym today. So you know what? He runs the joint. Maybe he shuts it down and he joins you on this little journey here. That's right. He wants to go see some. Maybe he brings a towel. That's right. It might be wet out. Never know. It's wintertime, right? That being said, I think you get the idea. Maybe the universe puts you on this path to meet this individual, because who's to say? People we meet in our lives might enrich it for one way or the other. That being said, I think you get the idea, so let's get on with the birthday read. Your month is January, your day is the 17th, your sign is 26 to 28 degrees Capricorn of the Capricorn Aquarius Cusp, the very first day of this particular period, and your quality and elements is Cardinal Earth. All right, January 17th, the day of the heavyweight. Those born on January 17 are some of the most powerfully direct individuals of the year. This is in large part because they usually have a very clear goal and a firm idea of what it is that they wish to accomplish at any given time. They are also able to effectively assess their chances for success based on past experience and the difficulties that lie ahead. Early on in life, January 17th people learn what it is that makes a human being tick. And they come to understand the importance of motivation, and that needs are what impel people to action and often determine how they will respond to any given situation. Needs themselves created by, what do we have here? Basic human emotions, to say love, hate, fear, shame, guilt, etc., it says in parentheticals. And most born on this day also realize early on that it is the person in control of him or herself who exercises self-discipline, who succeeds in life. And more highly developed January 17th people are in touch with their own drives and desires and are able to inspire themselves repeatedly to rise to life's challenges. Less highly developed individuals born on this day focus on how they may control their environment without first knowing themselves. And they can become masters of manipulation, less a covert manipulation than outright handling of others, it says in parentheticals. Whether physically imposing or not, January 17th people have a commanding presence that will tend to dominate most occasions. And because, as mentioned, their purpose is generally so well defined and they display such remarkable control over themselves, at least outer control, it says in parentheticals, others may feel somewhat intimidated. And those born on this day do not ask permission to be who they are. And they tend to throw off inhibitions which keep the average person from expressing talents and the more dramatic side of their nature. Actually, the more dynamic side. I read it wrong there. And indeed, January 17th people are more likely to be concerned with individual achievements and are usually firm supporters of the rights of the individual. Thus, they rarely make the best team players. That's right, they rarely make the best team players, all right, and usually operate better on their own. And it's not surprising that the greatest danger for January 17th people is in losing touch with the feelings, concerns, and philosophy of others. And because those born on this day brook no compromise of their plans, they may cast associates, co-workers, even friends in an antagonistic position relative to themselves. And they may also drive less powerful individuals who feel they cannot compete with January 17th individuals in the open, it says in parentheticals. They send them underground to nurse grudges and bide their time. Thus, it is crucial that January 17th people firmly ground themselves in a social context while strengthening friendships and family ties. And above all, they must not allow themselves to become isolated or force those around them into static or undesirable roles. All right. a rather narrow, laser-focused birthday breakdown today. That having been said, I thought they expanded out and did a lot of value there within that narrow scope they provided. That having been said, this has been a pretty common through line here for the Capricorn period in particular. Usually there's only one particular numbered day throughout the month, or the sun rulership number 1 days, that they really drill down on a hyper focus and then expand from there. But they've been doing it consistently with the Capricorn days. I think there was 1 or 2 where you could argue they didn't. But that having been said, I might be getting ahead of myself. Let's dive into some notes. I like to provide a little bit of a commentary on what we read, make connections with other days, things in the period, also just things I found interesting. So let's get into it here. January 17th, the day of the heavyweight. You're some of the most powerfully direct individuals of the year. All right, and I'm apt to believe it, considering all the scenarios and the standards being broken in the book on this period, even down to how they've been writing these particular entries. They've changed up the format in a lot of cases. But you're said to have very clear goals and what it takes to realize your aspirations. All right, your assessments based on past experiences are also said to help you recognize what you'll be successful with. And whereas objectivity is a watchword through line for this particular period, empiricism hasn't been, all right, or saying knowledge based on experience. That's not to say that it isn't necessarily, it just hasn't been mentioned. This is the first time they've brought it up. So to this end, the reading claims one such experience you may have in your formative years is coming to understand what drives people to action and how they'll react to certain situations, and what characteristics separate those who succeed from those who don't. All right, such understanding, in turn, can lend to a capacity to manipulate others, they said, for the lesser evolved individuals born on this day. But your environment and your own personal drives and development can also be influenced by such things. Very interesting. They also said a commanding presence is also said to allow you to dominate your environment in any given situation. And in considering your purpose and self-control and intimidating others, I'm assuming. Whether this is similar or different to self-confidence, which is commonly ascribed to many of those born on this day, who's to say? But I would say it runs in a similar vein. It would seem to come, let's see here, especially if you're able to throw off your inhibitions to express your talent. I don't know that this necessarily comes up as much in this particular period, so that might be an earmark of your particular talents and self-confidence, all right? Also similar to many other Capricorns, you may not make the best team players, as it turns out. And independence and personal achievement may be your primary focus in particular. And I say that because whereas often other Capricorns, it seems to me they do exude a little bit of independence insofar as they attach themselves to a cause or an organization per se. But then they let that particular organization just define who they are, and they dedicate themselves to it as if that's their life's aspiration. So I'd say to a certain extent they might deviate from you if they are to give themselves over to a corporation or an organization in that way. So they might abandon said independence at that point. So while different, you still share this recommendation to not lose touch with concerns for others. All right, and also for drumming up antagonists. It's a common Capricorn through line, people to make some enemies there. I liked here that they brought it up about your friends and family too. So I would say that's a bit of a through line also here with other Capricorns. So strengthening your social sphere, also a common piece of advice there. So you're largely your own person though. I would strongly argue. And you are so, but you're also not altogether all too different either. All right, I think is one of the things I was trying to make a point of saying. That having been said, like I said, a little bit of a narrow breakdown, but like within that, I thought they brought up a lot of interesting dynamics, and so yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. That having been said, let's see what other similarities or things we can drum up as we move on to your numbers and your planets. All right, here we go. Those born on the 17th day of the month are ruled by the number 8 as 1 plus 7 equals 8. And by the planet Saturn. Saturn carries strong feelings of limitation and restriction and also a judgmental aspect. And these characteristics are reinforced for January 17th people since Saturn also rules their sign. Capricorn there, and complete the sentence. Therefore, January 17th people must beware of putting undue emphasis on the physical side of their life and being overly authoritarian and ambitious. And the number 8 holds a conflict between the material and the spiritual worlds. All right. This was a pretty quick down and dirty numbers and planets, but they did personalize it here for you a little bit, I would argue. They didn't necessarily just do a copy-paste job over from the last number 8 day. That having been said, before I dive in, because I know I didn't write anything about it, this is the first day of the cusp. So not only are you ruled by Saturn, but you're also ruled a little bit by Uranus, which is an erratic and explosive planet that's said to shake up a lot of things. And I say that because I think it might lend to a little bit of your differences from the Capricorn periods there. Things are starting to shift a little bit here out of the typical Capricorn through line. So I would assume it's because of Uranus primarily, because that seems to be the only difference there insofar as the astrology is concerned. But let's see what I had to say. Maybe I did touch on it, though I don't think I did. The number 8 in the constrictive planet Saturn for a dual Saturn influence. All right, for strong judgmental aspects, strong feelings of limitation, as well as restrictions. And while these qualities are said to be reinforced for you, I'd say based on the breakdown, you show a great capacity to be thoroughly expansive within those restrictions. And that must be because of Uranus there. There's a little bit of rebellion in there too, baked in with Uranus. And it's no small thing to gaze into the inner workings of the human animal, I would say, and come away with understanding of what motivates and also drives one to action, all right? Let alone where one finds self-discipline and finds ways to cultivate it to their own ends. So again, it may be a limited / restricted pocket, but a lot is done within it, I would argue, if the breakdown applies. Again, they warn, albeit a bit more directly, about being authoritarian and overly ambitious, which is common for the Capricorn, all right? But that's assuming all that applies. But I suppose that is if you want a better to better fit in with those around you. That's something you should focus on. It says you're highly independent, so maybe that's not a concern of yours, fitting in. But who's to say? Another concern for the Capricorns is they realize too late in life that they were doing it all wrong. And a little bit of regret gets baked into there. So, you may feel like you want to be independent now, never know later. So, something to reflect on if you like. That having been said, that's what I'd say about your numbers and your planets. So let's move on to your tarot. That's right, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. But it's here in the book. It's your birthday. We don't have to take it home with us and start dealing out the cards to predict our future. But you know what? Oftentimes we can make some more connections, and it's kind of interesting to see that kind of stuff. So let's dive into it here. The 17th card of the major arcana is the Star. Which shows a beautiful naked girl under the stars pouring refreshing water on the parched earth with one pitcher and reviving the stagnant water of a pond with another. She represents the glories of the earthly life, but also material enslavement to it. And the stars above her are an eternal reminder of the presence of the spiritual world. January 17 people then should beware of excessive physicality and never lose sight of their higher goals. All right. They threw a little bit of a personalization in it there for you. Not all too common. I don't know, arguably. But some days they don't even do that. They just completely copy-paste job it over. So you got a little bit of something extra in it for you. All right, so your tarot, what I have to say. The Star, a once-a-month card. All right, the one with the capacity to refresh and revive. Representing the glories of the material, which I would argue you aptly have the capacity to have very well in hand. But concern for the other aspects in life well within your reach, all right? But you may be neglecting because you may not have your eye out for them or any concern for as much. They aren't an immediate concern, or they don't hold enough meaning to lend any credence there. I basically just said that. But who's to say just how much more expansive and, what do we say here, colorful life might be if you did reach for those particular stars there, those things that were just out of reach there. So I don't know, something else to maybe reflect upon. That's right. What are you not getting in your life because you're so materially oriented? Assuming it applies. That having been said, that's what I had to say about your tarot, the star, if you like. So let's move on to your health. All right, let's see about your health concerns there. Those born on January 17 must be careful on the one hand not to indulge their aggressive impulses, or on the other hand, to repress them. And if they can keep their emotions flowing while at the same time being aware of the effects they are having on those around them, their vibrant natures will be appreciated and their mental health will remain stable. Interesting. The use of all stimulants, including caffeine, nicotine, sugar, and amphetamines, should be carefully controlled. Diets are best kept balanced, with spicy foods eaten sparingly, and a strong emphasis on grains. Overeating of meat should be discouraged, and vigorous physical exercise is recommended, as it is an excellent way to work off aggressions. Competitive sports, martial arts, calisthenics, and endurance running and swimming are particularly recommended. And although damage to the skeletal system must be guarded against, plenty of sleep, a stable home environment, and a loving sexual partner will be helpful to their well-being. All right, I got a little bit mumble mouth there because I thought there was a complete sentence kind of thing. Here nor there. Plenty of sleep and a stable home environment. That was the complete sentence. So what do I have to say about your health here? Careful not to indulge or repress aggressive impulses. You can express your emotions if you're mindful of a balance. All right. Remember those inhibitions you don't have for expressing talent. That's right. You're open to expressing your talent. Why not kind of express what's bothering you? I'm assuming this had a largely psychological bend to it. Not something that's common in the health here, but in the latter couple of months there, it comes up once in a while. And usually when the psychological stuff comes up that they warn against, they kind of ditch concerns for the diet. They don't elaborate on it too much. But they did that for you here today. So they took their time out for you. It must be a concern also. Here we say, but like other Capricorns, they don't often show regard for minding their personal health either. Somewhat similar diet recommendations to other Capricorn days, avoiding cholesterol foods for vein health, and competitive sports to excise aggression. Sex with a loving partner, to include plenty of sleep, skeletal health, make for a very well-rounded health entry, as it turns out. Let's see here. And they shoehorned in just about everything they ever do. Psychological thing, like I said, not all the time, but diet, health, sleep in particular is an interesting one because that doesn't come up all too often. So maybe take note. That's come up the past few days. Might have something to do with the cusp. I'm not quite sure. But one of those days was a Neptune rulership day, and Neptune generally gets sleep as a recommendation for their dream time. But what else did I have to say? They said take care of your skeleton. Now, the skeleton and the veins are Capricorn body areas, so I think that's why they lend to recommending that you stay away from cholesterol. And as far as the skeleton's concerned, they don't often mention it, but every once in a while they say to take your vitamins and your supplements, which lends me to think your calcium. But joints also come up once in a while, so don't forget your glucosamine and chondroitin. That's right, I had to look that up for those individuals. That having been said, like I said, rather rounded out health entry for you there. So that having been put to bed there, your health, let's move on to some advice. All right, you get some more advice here. Give others a chance too. All right, relinquishing control can free you. Cultivate humanity and stay in touch with the times. All right, I think this was the most brief bit of advice. Pretty interesting here for you, but a lot of value, I would argue, even though it was brief. So what did they have to say rather? Give others a chance. And here's what I had to say. You aren't the center of the universe. I keep coming back to drill down on this with the Capricorns here. You also may not have people figured out as well as you think, all right? Even so, people are more than the sum of their particular neuroses. So give them a little bit of credit. Don't judge too many of them by their cover. You also don't know what they might be able to do for you if you allowed them into your life. You never know, they might improve it for you. Help you grasp at some of the things that the tarot came up in the tarot that maybe you're neglecting or don't have any concern for. They can expand your horizons sometimes. What else do we have here? Cultivate humility, they said. Hey, it's just good practice, I would argue. You may also be out of pocket more than you think, and it gives you a chance to be objective and open yourself up to sharing your human side. Oh, that's right, that human animal side that you know so well. Maybe you can show some of it to someone else. Let's see here. Stay in touch with the times. All right, you have Saturn's concentrated influence on two dynamics there. Almost a dual rulership, except for Uranus coming in there to shake things up and electrify things with its rebellious orbit. So it's kind of doubly against you there in conservative terms. So allow little dynamics in there to break up the static, I would say. Challenge your preconceived, possibly out of date notions and ideas. That's right. A lot of times they'll throw in stuff to kind of contrast your strengths, or the things where you're very drilled down into. So they're just giving you some contrary stuff to focus on. So in any event, that's been your advice. Let's dive in with your meditation. That's right, it's your birthday. You get a meditation. Something to think on if you like. There is room for many stars in the firmament. Oh, I like this one for you here. Once more. There is room for many stars in the firmament. Or the heavens, if you didn't know. That's right. Okay, that's your meditation. It's your birthday. I'm not going to throw any kind of spin or interpretation on it for you, outside of having defined firmament for you if you didn't know. With that being said, your birthday, your meditation. So with that in the can, let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's hold up the objective mirror and see where we got the bulk and maybe where we're a little more otherwise atrophied. That's right. Your strengths and your weaknesses. Your strengths: you're independent. Hey, we knew that one. You're expressive. Oh, they touched on that one. And you're forceful. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. But your weaknesses. Oh, let's hold up that objective mirror, but spin it to the side that blows up your face. Shows off all the pock marks from when you was picking your chicken pox scabs when you were as a kid, even though your parents told you not to because they'd carry forward on you. And maybe now you're a little superficially insecure about as much. That's right, in a manner of speaking. Your weaknesses. You're dominating, isolated, and you're uncooperative. Interesting. You know what? I think they're just reinforcing things we may have already known. That having been said, oftentimes I like to say our weaknesses aren't always weaknesses. Sometimes they can be strengths, just depending upon the situation. You know, some days these weaknesses and strengths, they'll trade back and forth. I mean, it's just the day previous or the day after. Very interesting that there'd be such a swing there. But it's also just dependent upon the personality type there. And you know what? I'm sure every January 17th person's not the same. Having said that, I also like to say if you wanna kind of improve upon your weaknesses, your strengths are going to help you get there. You're independent, you're expressive, and you're forceful. Those are interesting things to try to, turn into a tool to improve upon our weaknesses. But dominating, isolated, and uncooperative, hey, you know what? If you're expressive, you're going to be able to get out of that isolated nature there. They even said you have a capacity to show your talents off. Uncooperative, it's probably because you're a little bit independent there. But sometimes I would say we need to be independent, because if we're just getting too cloistered in with other people, it doesn't give us an opportunity to shine, right? I don't know. I don't really have a case here to be made to any particular certain ends to say that your strengths are going to help you get over your weaknesses. Not these particular ones. But yeah, I don't do my homework on this one. I try to do it on the fly. And this one didn't work out too well for me here. But that being said, I think the argument still stands. We can curve back our weaknesses if we use our strengths. But I also like to argue, you know what? Don't get rid of your weaknesses altogether. because they make us who we are. That's right. So your strengths and weaknesses having been relayed, my arguments not particularly cogent. That's okay. It happens once in a while. It's a one shot, one take too. Let's move on to those born on this day. And when we get into those born on this day, not only do we get to see who shares your company, but something I like to do is examine it through the prism of figuring out our passions. Because too often I get out in the world and meet individuals and ask them what they do and whether or not they like it, more importantly. And a lot of times they don't. And I think it could be said they probably just got out of school right into a job that they didn't necessarily like. They just need to get ends to meet. And so the fatal flaw at the root of it is they got into something that it didn't really speak to them at all. And then they started climbing that corporate ladder, potentially. And it became easy because they're used to it. And then there's just at the end of the week, there's no time to carve out, to put in the energy to start diving into our passions. And you know what? If there's anything I can wish for somebody on their birthday and then their life in general, it's that they have a purpose or something that they can drive after. So they're eager to get out of bed in the morning and start living their life in an enjoyable way. We only got so much time on this planet, so I don't know. I think that's a great way to look at it. But like I said, maybe you don't have the passions, so this is the perfect opportunity to maybe take some inspiration from other people who share your company. So let's look at it through that prism if we can, as we dive in with those born on this day. All right, we start off with Benjamin Franklin, statesman, scientist, inventor, writer, printer, and he founded the U.S. Mint and the Postal Service. All right, that's a huge figure to live up to there. We also have Muhammad Ali, world heavyweight boxing champion, an Olympic gold medalist as well. We have Joe Frazier, the world heavyweight boxing champion, is another Olympic gold medalist as well, and an entertainer also. We have Constantine Cusp D'Amato, a boxing trainer of heavyweight champions Mike Tyson and Floyd Patterson. Al Capone, or Scarface, as they nicknamed him there, the crime boss who ruled Chicago. Konstantin Stanislavski, the Russian stage director and acting theorist. We also have Max Sennett, a silent slapstick rather, film director, a producer, and responsible for the Keystone Cops. That's cops with a K in this instance. We also have James Earl Jones, the stage and film TV actor, Ryuichi Sakamoto, or Sakamoto perhaps, the Japanese composer and a keyboardist, Moira Shearer, a film actress and a ballet dancer, and we also have Kip Keino, a Kenyan runner, an Olympic 1,500 meter and steeplechase gold medalist. And we also have Vidal Sassoon, the hairdresser, and the shampoo Imperium, it says. David Lloyd George, a British World War I Prime Minister. Tom Dooley, missionary physician and responsible for the night they burned the mountain. And we also have L. Douglas Wilder, the first African-American governor of Virginia. We also have Betty White, the film and TV actress. Conrad Morakand, a scholar and a pornographer, it says. Don't know if I've heard of them before. Sidney Scheinberg, a New York Times journalist. Marcel Penoir, a French physician, and a murdered 67 patients, it says, and executed for as much. And we also have Wendy Hashimura, a political activist and an SLA member. And oh boy, there was some heavyweights in there, to be sure. That's interesting. There was a lot of folks that filled out this day today. Then most days, I don't even know who 90% of them are, interestingly. In any event, that's been those born on this day. I know it's a big-ass tall order to take inspiration from other people's, their passions or the things that they did to get in the book, especially individuals who really carved out a niche for themselves or a place in history. But you know what? There's always more room, all right? Because individuals eventually fade from view. So you know what? Don't let that get you down if it does. But hopefully you can just drum up the fires of inspiration and passion from hearing as much. Because like I said, if there's anything I can hope for you on your birthday, it's that you're driving up, chasing after your passions, and finding something fulfilling in life. So that being said, that essentially rounds out your birthday. I think I butchered a couple names in there, so let's make up for it on my side of things there. Just hooked on phonics, doesn't work for me. It's not done in malice. That having been said, that essentially rounds out your birthday read, except to say your season is winter, your sign once again is Capricorn, of the Capricorn Aquarius cusp, and your quality and elements is Cardinal Earth. And this has been January 17, the day of the heavyweight there, from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Stelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up a copy. Makes a great coffee table book, especially if you're trying to break the ice at a party. And you know what? Maybe you just don't have the energy for as much because you're so busy trying to figure out your passions. You know what? Let the book do the heavy lifting for you, all right? It's going to get the conversation started for better or for worse. And the link down in the description is going to save the hassle having to type it in the browser there. And it supports the channel in the bargain, which I appreciate. With that having been said, the book being related, not altogether all too important. Not in the scheme of things. In the scheme of things being, it's a January 17th, as you know, and it's your birthday. So once again, what's important around here? Wishing you a happy birthday. So happy birthday, all right? And for everybody else who joined us randomly or to celebrate us, I want to say I hope you enjoyed yourselves and you're geared up and hot and ready to hear your birthday read. So join us for that, I'm hoping. But lest I forget, all right, your daily numbers. Get out there and let the universe show you it's with you on your path. Drum up some synchronicities, stack up some coincidences, and you're going to understand why I recommended it in the first place. You see, taste, touch, feel, intuit, a little bit of magic. You'll understand for sure. That having been said, once again, I just want to say happy birthday. Thank you for the pleasure of your time and the privilege to celebrate your birthday with you. I've appreciated it. So take care of yourselves, all right? And happy birthday.